Life is pretty expensive right now, but you've been seeing these cool mecha kits online and you're desperate to join the fun. So you ask your favourite chat, because no one Googles things these days, about how to get into the hobby. Turns out you'll need some tools. Then come the recommendations. God-hand nippers, £60. Ceramic craft knife, £20. Sanding tool, £45. And the kit, the one that your friend just recommended, £120. The truth is that Gunpla, that's Gundam plastic models, has an extremely inexpensive buying cost compared to most modelling hobbies. One of the great things about Gunpla is you can put as little or as much effort and time into your kit as you want and still have a great end product. That's thanks to the extremely low cost and fantastic engineering of Bandai's Gundam model kits, which mean you can still have a fully coloured model kit and spend as little as £10 on it. And yet still the misconception remains that as a beginner to the hobby, you need the best tools, when in fact, it's how you use these tools that determines the quality of the kit at the end of the day. I'm Neon, and I'm delighted to welcome you to my guide, how to get into Gunpla without breaking the budget and keeping that bank balance in the good books. Let's get started. The most important tool that most Gunpla builders use when putting a kit together are the nippers. The nippers are what are used to separate the part from the runner. When cutting the part from the runner, you snip it at the sprue, which is the plastic joining the runner to part. So what kind of nipper should we be looking for? Do we need a nipper with a super sharp single blade edge that can cleanly slice through solid concrete? Well, no. Lots of people completely dismiss the bog standard Bandai entry nipper, but I think this tool is a godsend. There's no messing around with this thing. It does exactly what the name says. It's a nipper. It nips. If you're ordering from Japan, this tool can be purchased for as little as £4. Imported, you're more likely going to be paying around £7. For what this nipper can do, it's an exceptionally cheap tool. It's also the tool I use myself, having been in the hobby for near on 15 years, and when I brought this thing back from Paris, I was really impressed. Certainly, there are tools that will produce cleaner cuts, but as we'll explore soon, you don't need the cleanest cuts, especially when you're starting out. If you keep your nipper dry and clean, it'll give you plenty back. This isn't to dismiss more expensive nippers, not at all, they certainly have their place in the hobby. But when you're starting out, there are some fundamental skills you need to develop, and the Bandai entry nippers will certainly help you develop them. Now that you've cut your part from the runner, you have the piece in hand. But oh no, there's a bunch of ugly leftover on it, and there's marks too. Enter the mighty hobby knife. The hobby knife is a very versatile tool. Not only will you need it for freeing your kit's runners from their plastic bag, but you can also use them to trim the kit's nubs. How do we do this? Once we've used our nippers to cut the part free, we can slice away repeated layers of the plastic by lightly pulling the knife towards us. Start off at a high angle and slowly decrease the angle of the cut. Sometimes you can even pretend you're riding from Metal Gear Solid. Keep trimming the nub until you have a smooth surface to finish. Much like me, plastic gets stressed very easily, except instead of being stressed by rent, plastic is stressed by force. When we snip parts from the runner too close to the part, we crush the plastic. This causes it to crystallise, creating these noticeable white marks. To avoid this, ensure that when you're trimming the nub, your cuts are clean and without too much pressure. When it comes to buying your hobby knife, there are so many different varieties that it's difficult to point to one in particular. However, the Zacto company are an industry standard. In particular, I recommend one that uses a Type 11 blade. You can buy these very cheaply, and I suggest changing your blade every kit you finish. Your average hobby knife will include a few blades and should be priced at around £4. When it comes to dealing with the leftover nubs where parts have been snipped from the runner, there's another essential that we can look to. Enter the sanding stick, or rather, a homemade sanding stick. Sanding allows us to clean nubs with more control than a hobby knife. Yes, you can buy pre-made sanding stick packs from companies such as Display, Madworks or Squadron Easily, and there's certainly nothing wrong with doing that. But remember, we're doing this cheap. If this tutorial was a person, it would be selling knockoff TVs out of the back of a van at your local petrol station. You might buy one and quite enjoy it, but the light smell of petrol would always remind you of your choice. Homemade sticks are cheaper, and the resources required to make them are handy for a wide variety of purposes. The strength of this sandpaper is marked in grits. The lower the grit, the harsher the paper. When using sandpaper, we use a low grit to remove the majority of the material, a medium grit to pull the surface flat, and a higher grit to finish the job. You may also wish to use a polishing grit to pull everything together, but some appreciate the rougher look that sanding provides. We can also use the sanding tools to trim down the tabs that sit on high-grade kits' antenna or weapons too. These are here to make sure you don't poke your eyes out. Sand down the tabs to give your kits a sharper, more realistic look, or if you want to poke your eyes out. Watch out for giant safety tabs too. How do we make our own sanding stick? This requires some simple tools. Lollipop sticks, £3. Assorted sanding paper, look for one that ranges from around 400 to 1000 grit, £6. Superglue, £1.50. Simply apply the superglue to the sanding stick, press it to the reverse of the sandpaper and cut out. Repeat on the reverse and you have a homemade sanding stick. There's another benefit to making your own sanding sticks. The glue can also be used to harden any joints that are a little wobbly or loose. Simply apply to the ball joint, wait for it to harden, sand down if needed, and a potential major flaw to a kit can be easily negated. Together, everything has come to around £40 if we account for shipping. For a buying cost or hobby, it's exceptionally cheap. What else do we need? Well, you may have noticed that while we have our tools, we haven't actually got a kit yet. So where can we get one? I'd like to provide a suggestion first of all. Please don't shop on Amazon or eBay. Amazon and eBay used to be valid places to purchase Gunpla from, but during the pandemic, scalpers threw the prices up to absurd highs, and they have remained there for the past 2 years. Even today in 2022, you can find great prices like £34 for a high-grade Iron-Blooded Orphans Afstroth, or £100 for a master-grade Astro Red Frame. You simply don't need to pay these prices, and in addition, there are a great many local or independent hobby shops that will really appreciate your patronage. Trust me, Bezos doesn't need another yacht. The Gunpla subreddit has assembled a good list of suppliers that should serve your country's needs, and most of these stores will also sell some hobby tools too. Be aware that some of these may be expensive, specialist or high-end tools. Now, I could provide a whole video on Gunpla grades, on relevance, age and sale. For a first kit, find something that's suitably in your budget. I personally recommend any kit that catches your eye in the entry grade or high grade line. The truth is that no Gunpla kit is hard to put together. It's simply a matter of being perceptive and following instructions. If you can build IKEA furniture, you can build Gunpla. If you can't build IKEA furniture, go eat some meatballs, then you can build Gunpla. There are an immense number of Gunpla, so look for what's in stock and choose the one that really appeals to you. Maybe it'll be a realistic, grunty favourite of mine like the high-grade Universal Century Zeku Imes or Zeta Plus, an oddball like the high-grade Build Divers Wadden Pod, or something more flashy like the high-grade 00 Harut. If you're in the UK, I recommend sites like Gundam Mad, Japan Cool, Kickertech and Top Deck Inn for retail purchases, with I Love Gunpla for pre-orders. Hobby Frontline is also useful for the more obscure model kits if you're hunting for some. For our demonstration, we'll pick the high-grade Iron-Blooded Orphans Barbatus Lupus Rex as our demo kit. It's a relatively recent kit that's available at the moment for somewhere around £16. Having released in 2017, the Lupus Rex is on the higher end when it comes to looks and articulation. Let's add it to the basket. I'm sure some of you who have been in the fandom a little longer are rushing into the comments to state how loose and floppy the IBO Gundam frames are and that I've made a disastrous first choice for a kit. Don't worry, we'll be addressing that later. Let's build our kits using the techniques discussed. thank us for our hard work. We have a fantastic looking model kit that's cleanly cut out, relatively colour accurate, and sturdy. Gunpla is a fantastic hobby that's brought me an enormous amount of joy and indulged me into a wonderful community. I'm sure it will for you too. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like to play the YouTube algorithm game and consider subscribing too. A follow-up video covering more cheap tools and tricks to improve the look of your Gunpla will be in the works soon. I don't have a Patreon, a Ko-fi, or an offshore bank account, so it would be a great way to let me know that I'm doing something right. If you go on to start your Gunpla hobby from this video, let me know what kit you began with in the comment section below. This is Neil, signing off.